Thanks for tuning in and diving a little deeper in this rabbit hole known as Venom. This is Ian here along with my panel from last time in our non-spoiler review, Chris and Jason.
Is that the rabbit hole or the toilet hole?
Man, or the toilet bowl.
Toilet
I don't know.
All right. Look, so
well, now we know where we found the turd sandwiches.
We were talking about this just before we started doing this recording. We just did the non-spoiler review. We've had our eye on this for a while. We're both big Spider-Man fans, and when they announced what seems like they should have taken more time, I think, at this point, now that a Monday morning quarterbacking a little bit, when they first announced this new shared universe that Sony had planned on doing, I remember we were both very skeptical.
Right.
Of the concept. But then as ideas and things started coming out, it grew on us.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say. Isn't it, Ian?
It is.
Yeah, this grew on us a bit, but our first instincts were correct.
It's a tarp.
Well, Sony was involved, so garbage fires were inevitable.
It was Sony and their history with this, and then when we heard a couple months back that they were seriously talking, because they had said, adult-oriented, low-budget, mature, horror themes. We're starting off with Venom. That actually, I'm still attracted to that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I still think that's a good idea. That is not what we got at all.
No. No.
We got PG-13, comic book movie. There's no horror here. This is definitely not low budget. This thing's at least, not including advertising, I would be surprised if this thing is less than $80 million.
Right.
And that's not what we got at all. I'm very disappointed with this. And I think I'm a little disappointed with myself because I knew better when they first announced it. I let myself get sucked in.
I wouldn't feel too bad. I don't think it's a sin trying to extend an olive branch to, a very beloved franchise, things Spidey related, hoping that somehow, maybe Venom could get off the ground. But like you said, there were a lot of nails that we saw going into this, I think, going off the ground. Ditching the rated R. I know when I was sitting in theater watching a bunch of families and little kids coming to this, I was just like, this shouldn't have been. And then everything we had with the whole universe is trying to be built up here in the expanded plot lines, which we're going to get into. So
my stance on the DCEU DVDs is the same here. I will not buy any of those because I'm not going to let them come out with some theater family-friendly version. It came out I think this week. Tom Hardy was talking about they cut 40 minutes from this thing.
Dang.
To make it R-rated, and I think also because once they made it R-rated, like, ooh, we better cut some more. Because runtime matters.
Right.
So, God, I really, part of me is like, I really want to see what this should have been, what this could have been, but I don't want to, I'm not going to pay for it.
Right.
I don't want to give them the justification of doing this. I don't understand why Sony would do this. This DCEU tried this.
Yep.
And within a year, you could find Batman v Superman in the bargain bin for $5.
I think that says everything you need to. Look, let's dig into this a bit specifically, plot wise, and some of the things you have built here, because we hinted at this in the non-spoiler, but I think it'd be good to go specific. We're immediately introduced to this idea after the introduction and the crew that crashes with the specimens, that there is an entire planet, not just one, two. No, we're not just talking just Carnage or Venom hanging around. There are millions around. Which, to me, at least, I don't know if you guys had heard of any continuum from Spider-Man or anything else that anything like that had ever been mentioned before or set up. I
knew there were more than two, because in sort of the more extended universe, you've got stuff like Agent Venom, and you've got other symbiotes that showed up later. So I knew they were a species, but in the comic books, I believe they're more like lonesome spacefaring. Like they go out into space on their own, and they sort of just wander around until they find.
There's comics based on every superhero being venomized. They're not 616 canon, though.
Right.
And I don't know all the specifics of this. I know that they've done a pretty good job of trying to keep the symbiotes, because I'm going to say symbiotes, I'm going to say symbiotes, keep the symbiotes pretty rare. Now, that being said, they've made several. They've all been, I think they all initially came off as spawns from Venom.
Right.
I think there's been a couple spawns or two from Carnage. I don't know of any in the main Marvel universe, any of the other ones that have come from space or anything like that. I do believe it has been mentioned that they are an actual race from another planet. There used to be a bunch of them. I don't think there is anymore.
So we get this established, early on, and there's this immediate question you start to wonder about. Okay, well, is there a society? Is there a hierarchy? We get the rough frame in this movie that there's some sort of hierarchy. Riot, who is essentially our end baddie, who possesses the leader of the Life Foundation, and it's arguably one of the strongest symbiotes around. He is known as a ringleader, and Venom refers to itself as, I'm sort of a loser.
Yeah.
My planet, and I understand trying to break things down in a way that maybe a human can understand easily or process, which I'd sort of expect. You have this banter that's going between Eddie and Venom, this personal banter no one else can hear, which I loved. But in spite of all that dialogue, all this back and forth that's going between them, him relating to Eddie is, I was a loser too. And then by the end of the resolution as to why he goes from, maybe if you cooperate with me, I won't kill you, maybe you'll live, to, I really like this planet. I actually really want to save this planet. I don't want Earth to end. And why am I changing? Because of you, Eddie. And
yeah, that's dumb.
I said, that's a line that's reserved for a genuine series of development that has led to this point about why you would see this change. Like, even it can even come down to something simple as there's something more Eddie's after, something that he crafts out, something that over time becomes appealing and eventually creates more of a basic relationship than, hey, I need you to survive. You happen to be a decent host. We don't have that. As far as everything we're given in this film, it should really just be considered just another expendable host. There's nothing else that builds on their base of a relationship to give grounds for that kind of development to happen, for them to be unified like that by the time they run into the fight with Riot.
Well, adding on to what you're saying, there's a couple greater issues to that too. Like you said, that seems to be the main reason. At one point, Venom does mention to him, or makes mention, that he is such a suitable match.
Right.
But they don't go into this very much. And this is one of the biggest things that I think gets lost in all the cuts that they made. About halfway through, they introduced this idea that Venom is killing Eddie Brock.
Right.
By being connected to him. Which is something that they had introduced earlier in the movie about bad connections with symbiotes and hosts. Although that's what I just said is about as far as they go into it. They don't say why they're bad hosts. They theorize a little bit, but here we are, and now they're saying, well, Eddie and Venom, they're bad together. That's a bad host for him too. It's killing Eddie.
Right.
And the symbiote just says, no, it's not, and that is literally the last thing we ever hear on that.
Yep.
That's it. Is Venom's like, no, I'm not killing you, and by the way, at that point they're forced to separate.
Right.
And then he connects to somebody else, and we don't hear about anything about any effects that's had.
Right.
On Anne.
Right.
We don't see anything further about what kind of, we have to assume this isn't bad, because by the end of the movie, Eddie and Venom are, they're symbiote and host again.
Right.
And they seem to be okay with that. But this is like a whole story plot in the movie. It's like the whole thing about, well, we have to find suitable hosts.
Right. Right.
And then that's it. And by the way, might I add that Riot is in that Asian lady for 6 months.
Yep.
She doesn't really look any worse.
No.
Riot's just switching hosts constantly.
So the whole canon, the whole way that's built and established, I think sort of caves in on itself from the very start. I'm gonna throw this one at you guys. What do you guys think too about the idea of the invasion? I mean, Riot's whole thing for trying to get to the ship, get back up into space, bring a bunch of buddies. Let's have a big party on Earth.
Yeah, what do you think of that, Jason?
What do I think of it? I think it's stupid. I think they should have stuck with their original idea. I think that
what was the original idea?
The horror concept. Venom is a terrifying character who indulges in psychotic behaviors consistently throughout the comics, and we see through the source material that Venom has a way of worming itself into your head and making you psychotic right along with it. This thing has poisoned Eddie Brock's mind in the comics. Basically turned him into a whack job. Whereas before he was just some angry dude with a vendetta with Spider-Man. But prolonged exposure to this thing would obviously have negative effects on the host. And I think even with the failure that Venom is, if Sony turns it around and makes a Carnage movie, sort of Seven style, because the basis for Carnage is a serial killer, right? Make it sort of a Seven style dark horror serial killer movie where the monster is Carnage. Do it from the point of view of the cops where we're only seeing Carnage as the bad guy. That would be a phenomenal fucking movie. If they had done something like that for the Venom movie, it would have been beautiful. Venom is an evil guy and play into it like an evil character, and or as an anti-hero, at least make him more open to the evil stuff,
right?
Instead of spewing around about turd sandwiches.
Okay, go ahead.
I think there's a lot of things that could have been done better. Ian said it best. The conversation between Eddie and Venom is the best part of this movie.
It's really the only likable part of the movie.
Yeah, and I think if they had picked one tone to go with, it would have gone better. If they had just stuck with sort of that lighthearted feel throughout the entire movie, that would have been one thing. It would have been a gas, poking fun at the over-seriousness of the DC movies, that would have been hilarious, just sort of, tongue-in-cheek, gone with that. That's one thing. At least you had a theme and you stuck to it. But here it just jumps back and forth between we gotta save the planet and fight Riot, and turd sandwiches are hilarious.
That is one thing that did bother me though. I mean, we went from they're setting up the story. Okay, they've been laying down some decent groundwork here. The first half of the movie I actually really enjoyed without much problems. But the second half really just kind of ruined the whole thing. And it's like, oh man, is Venom killing Eddie? Is that true? Is that not true? The doctor's saying it's having a bad effect on him. Maybe it's not. Maybe, and then all of a sudden, spaceship and save the world. And I'm like, what? Okay, what the hell? Here's the thing. All right, here's. I think one of the last scenes in the movie sums up this movie pretty well. Okay, so Eddie goes into the convenience store, which, by the way, it's daytime.
Right.
You guys remember that? It was daytime when he went into the store. All right. And you got the whole thing, and the guy comes in with the gun, and Venom, you have some great Venom moment here.
Yep.
With Venom talking, he's like, eat your arms and legs in your face, and you'll just be this turd rolling around, and then he just like, fuck it, and then just eats his head. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Okay, now stop there. Everything that happens after that point is garbage. Okay, first let's talk about the fact that they barely showed anything, and that should have been a very R-rated, gruesome moment.
Right.
I mean, Venom should be wiping blood off his face. All right. Yeah. Which, by the way, there's none. Not even in the teeth. Not even hair in the teeth.
Nope.
Okay. All right. So
there's no blood in the entire movie.
Well, there's no blood on the floor.
Yeah.
There's no.
That's what I couldn't believe. I was specifically looking for that as that shot as he went out of. As I was getting out of focus in the background, I'm like, is the floor a mess or something at least? Like,
and the clerk isn't going to say, hey, nope. you forgot something. The decapitated body on the floor, I'm pretty sure that's yours. When you lick it, you own it, right? Well, you just bit its head
Yeah.
off. So
You break it, you buy it.
But and then when he leaves, it's night.
Oh,
It was
man.
just day. It was in like less than like 3 minutes. I mean, that's just the issue. There's the issues with the editing. That's the issues with just the quality. They gave a lot of time and attention towards creating Venom, and you can tell a lot of thought went into creating how he was going to look, how he was going to sound,
how he was gonna, feel, and how he was gonna kill, even, like.
Right.
They just needed to do that for the whole movie, and it is the mentality. This is what's ticking me off, and this is what Fox does, and this is what Sony has done. Although they've made attempts in the past to do otherwise, but it's like, well, we'll get Venom right, and that'll be fine. We'll make hundreds of millions of dollars. No, you need more at this point, and that is a lot of that '90s comic book mentality. Just make this and action it up, and it's like, no, you need more now. You can't just make the main guy good or fine, and the rest will fall in place. But I mean, that end scene, I mean, there's so much wrong with that last scene.
I think a place where this really struggles is, and I talked a bit about this in the non-spoiler too, are the different references to and all the different throwbacks to Venom are trying to take a lot of the old school, some of the early '90s stuff, and then some of the new school and blend that. Like now that I actually think about it, I think some of the whole the planet symbiote stuff, that's something a little newer, at least, but trying to square that alongside with everything else here. I mean, the basics of the suit, the initial goal to cure cancer. I know that's something introduced in the Ultimate Spider-Man. I remember reading that when Parker and Eddie teamed up. Down to all the other, basic elements you get here. The connection to the McFarlane law firm and all those things. You've got so many things in the air that all the small stuff kind of falls because the basic platform of this is really it's built in so much sand at the start, and then really that doesn't give you the basis, for everything else. So, I mean, we're even going into stuff like, I know there were 2 offshoots I remember, Venom Dog and She-Venom. We get a little bit of the She-Venom thing here through Anne, but then that's it, resolved within that.
I had heard that there was a scene where Eddie and Venom make out. This was before the NDA had been lifted. The gag order was lifted on the reviews. And I'm like, what?
Whoa.
There's actually a scene where Eddie and Venom make out. I'm like, how in the... lo and behold.
There you go.
My bad. I didn't think that you could screw it up that bad. But look at you go. Making Eddie and Venom make out. All right.
Oh, man.
I stand corrected on my faith in your movie making.
Yeah, it's just where all the, like you said, then the where the cuts are falling in, the things about the end, the clerk just kind of passes over things. Overall though, one of the basic issues I have is when I think of Venom, 2 words come to my mind: lethal protector, and squaring that, how he comes to that point, how the symbiote comes to that point, and how they sort of reach homeostasis or an agreement with things. We don't have the build necessarily to drive that. You've got a bit of the stuff that happens in the end. Brock setting, hey, these are the ground rules. Look, if you're going to stay, this is what we're going to do. Sammy kind of makes a suggestion. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, we can do whatever we want. And he breaks it down about, hey, well, okay, look, you can eat up people or whatever if that happens. Maybe just the bad guys. And that's really as far as we go about it. But I think that's a missed opportunity to really explore how the twisted bend Eddie/Venom has always had to justice, and the way he looks at it. One reason I love it that always brought him into contention with Spider-Man is he says, look, you're weak the way you're dealing with this stuff. I don't know why you didn't just kill whoever like he was livid. I remember I'm bringing it up again here because it's important. Maximum Carnage. He was livid that Spidey and what was it? Firebird didn't get together and kill Carnage when they had the chance. And Spidey was like, look, we got him like dead to rights here, but we don't need to kill him. And it's like, look, that's why you're all idiots. You should have just murdered him anyway. So those whole questionable things. The thing is, Eddie Brock's got this suppressed need, to kind of help his fellow man and stuff like that. And then squaring that with what he has here, in the form of Venom and everything, there's a real chance to do something cool with that and something fun, and we just don't have it here. So
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with Ian in that case. The progression of the character has been chopped all to hell if they had a decent one to start with. We'll never know. I mean, we'll know eventually what all they chopped out, but I mean, like right now, we've got no idea.
right.
Maybe it was a really great movie that they decided like they shot, they edited it, and then Sony's executives were like, but MCU, so they had to take the blunt scissors to it.
Yeah,
We'll never know.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the end result is a fucking mess, but other than that, I can't tell you how we got to this point. Because it starts off so good, like the anti-hero thing could have worked out really well. Sony, hopefully, like we had hoped they had learned from what they did wrong with all the previous superhero movies. Like the Tobey Maguire stuff died with Spider-Man 3. You know what was wrong with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Take a look at your mistakes and learn from the past. That's how companies develop. That's how they get better. But Sony's such a big company and they do so many things that they don't have to do that evolution that most companies do. They can just throw more money at it and scream, why doesn't it work? We're doing the same thing we always did. Why isn't it working now?
A couple things in the finer points of the movie. The script is horrible.
Oh, God.
Dialogue is trash.
God has abandoned you, but I will not.
That guy.
Something I noticed in the I mentioned it in the non-spoiler, the chemistry between Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams, Eddie Brock, and Anne. My God, there's at one point where, especially at the end when they're sitting on the steps talking, and I'm just like, can I just bang my head against the wall instead of listening to this? Can I eat a sandwich full of nails?
Dude, you know what's hilarious?
It was, and I'm sorry, I know I'm told that to you. I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating. I mean, did you guys get the same feeling too? It was just awful.
Yeah, it sounded like what a middle schooler thinks adults talk about. When they get together. Somebody who's like, just hit puberty. Be like, this is what adults sound like.
I mean, and just Michelle Williams, who looks like and sounds like she could be a good actress. Just I hated her. I hated her in this thing. I don't think I'm supposed to feel that way about you.
No, not at all.
I think I'm supposed to feel indifference, if not a little bit of sympathy. What's his name? Riz Ahmed played the villain.
Right.
There was it's my understanding that a lot of the 40 minutes we didn't get had to do with that. It had to do with the villain, and there was a lot with him and Riot that I guess we didn't get. God, that was it felt so bland and awful. I mean, Jesus, take your cookie cutter villain and just put him in here. It's
Right.
Man.
Right.
Yeah, it was like every rich evil villain stereotype just got thrown into a blender. They're like, all right, well, what do all these bad guys have in common? We're going to make our bad guy have this, and he's going to be the baddest bad guy.
Plus Venom.
Yeah.
Plus Venom.
It's like an elementary schooler adding on stuff. Gotta have monster trucks and dinosaurs and Venom. Makes him the baddest bad guy ever.
Oh.
That was great. Oh, but I want to see the movie with dinosaurs and monster trucks. I do want to see that, though. Take out Venom, though. Yeah, this was so... if you take away Venom from this movie, real quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. And I'm saying to begin with. Yeah.
Take away Venom from this movie, and you have one very confused bipolar reporter.
Ian, you asked us a little while ago. We've kind of run the gauntlet and everything we
Yeah.
hated about it. No, the spaceship alien thing was shit.
Yeah.
To answer your question,
Yeah, okay, you're back at
minutes
the top.
ago,
Yeah.
it was shit. No, yeah, you don't. It took away the importance, like I think, the kind of special feeling that you would have here with Eddie and Venom.
Right.
Is that there's billions of them? Okay, well
Right.
then who gives a shit about this guy?
Part
Because they're a couple losers from what we're being told.
part of and again, I haven't read the current continuum about some of this. I if anything, this has kind of sparked me to dive into, hey, is there just more here I'm missing? But what made the original The Black Suit Saga in Spidey so cool was that there was just this 1 in a million alien being that had latched onto this ship, and Pete happened to run into it, and it changed him, it enhanced him, made his powers greater and everything, but he started to lose his mind from it and ended up separating. It felt like such a one-off special event. Something that wasn't to be duplicated. And, he went on to, you could say, well, he goes on to his second host, but I mean, Venom went on to become one of the most prolific villains in the Spidey series, and I loved it because these were two that often found themselves on opposite sides of the fence, but that Venom, if anything, sort of just enjoyed toying with. He was never always a bitter outright villain. Sometimes he'd work with Spider-Man if it came to it. Other times he just antagonized him. Other times he just bother the heck out of the people that he loved. But they made for a really interesting pairing. The origin and everything else worked out, and he felt unique. Everything about the suit felt unique, and it felt 1 in a million. But a lot of that shattered here. I just don't think they're going to get the time or ability to build this out any further or flesh this out. No,
I don't think we're going to get another one. I
No.
think it's done.
Yeah, when you said that though, Ian, all I pictured was Venom shoving Spider-Man into a locker, like harassing him. He's like, "Get in there,
Yeah.
nerd!"
pretty much. Pretty
I
much.
don't know why, but that's what jumped into my head.
And it's funny, man. In the comics, Spidey had to come up with some inventive ways to take him out. Like
Venom thing was sound, and in the original Black Suit Saga, Spider-Man ended up like running up to a church bell and ripping it off of him, and that was an iconic scene. This was a real fight, not just externally, but also internally, because there's that desire on Spider-Man's behalf to keep this power. The symbiote amplifies it and makes him stronger, faster, better. But it's a duality.
Right.
And that's what made Venom so interesting. Was the fact that the Venom itself wasn't necessarily good or evil. It was mostly just interested in whatever makes Venom happy.
Right.
And then we got to see the absolute extreme of that with Carnage. Carnage is a fucking psycho.
Yep.
But Carnage is only interested in what makes Carnage happy, and because Carnage is a psycho, what makes Carnage happy is murder. Lots and lots of murder.
Couple things to add on to that. First, I think just to add on to what you're saying there, Jason, I think part of what makes Carnage so crazy is that Venom is already pretty damn crazy.
Yeah.
And then he's 5 notches up from that. There was something else I was going to add to what you guys are saying. Oh yeah. It's funny because one of the things that I know a lot of people were panning this for before they'd even seen it, and one of the bigger concerns was that, how are you going to do a decent origin story without, for Venom without Spider-Man? And it's funny because this is, and I wouldn't say it's one of the successes of the movies, but this is something they actually kind of pull off.
Yeah, I would.
Sure.
Sure. It didn't feel necessarily forced at all. It wasn't like all of a sudden here you go. There, like Chris said, the first half of the movie wasn't terrible. They followed all the basic screenwriting rules. Like there was logical reasons for most of what happened. But yeah, the origin story wasn't terrible, and honestly, if the rest of the movie had done better, it probably would have panned out very well for them.
Sure. No, sure.
By the way, can I just mention something here real quick? That we're talking about Venom and Carnage and symbiotes and stuff like that. Just a few months ago in Spider-Man 800, Spider-Man actually put Venom on for the first time, I think, maybe since he dropped the suit. And he gives him Venom to wear because he has to take on the Red Goblin, which is a mix of Carnage and the Green Goblin.
Oh, that's how that went.
Yeah.
Ah, sick. Sick,
It
sick,
was
sick.
pretty crazy. Pretty
Sick.
crazy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. But hey,
And it was nuts. And that's kind of adding on to the point because it was nuts and it was special to see, oh my God, Spider-Man's wearing Venom again.
yeah,
Holy crap. And he actually
that's
loses it for a moment and he starts looking like Venom for a moment.
that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
I mean, look,
huge.
all you got to do is look. Just even if you just span some of the 90s up to even some of the stuff now going into 2014, and now what you mentioned too, Chris, recently in Amazing Spider-Man, there's an awesome arc of comics here. I know I think back to about '07, the birth of Venom, stuff like that, and the shots with just Venom and Carnage, and to everything else we built. The show in Superior Spider-Man. This comes from a long line of awesome, and there's a lot to read into if you guys just ever want to dig into it. So.
Yeah, well, it's kind of exciting because like I read a lot of the non-canon stuff, which is fun because the writers get to go nuts with the characters, with having to worry about fucking up the timeline. But like every time Peter goes off the deep end, he puts on the black suit, like his cloth replica of the black suit.
Yeah.
Like during the Civil War arc, where he fucking like just out and out starts killing the gunmen. And then he travels to the prison and beats the Kingpin within an inch of his life, and then just walks right on out. He was wearing the black suit. Like anytime the character like goes off the deep end, the black suit finds its way into his hands. It's always interesting to see now he's put on the original one, the Venom one.
Right,
that Chris
right.
was talking about.
Right.
That's a very outward example of an inner decision to go and break a lot of what he believes in.
I think that squares it. I think we walked a lot of the lines of what we've loved about this character and what he's meant to the whole Spider-Man series over the years. What we saw in this movie, of course, all the things we didn't see, what we hoped for, what we didn't get, everything we did get. A lot here in the table. Hey, listen, you guys got some thoughts? We'd love to hear them. Post down in the comment section below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you just jump straight into the spoiler review, hey, we have a non-spoiler.
Hey,
check that out.
I'm
and
sorry,
Chris, go ahead.
I do hate to interrupt, but it sounds like you're wrapping this up. And before we do that, we do have to talk about the after credit scene.
No, we do. I do not want to leave without that. You're right, because there's a key bag of red we're not mentioning yet here. No, I completely agree with you. No, as we come to the end of this, we mentioned the after credit scene in the non-spoiler review as well. We have this shot of Woody Harrelson as Carnage. Not yet. He's not Carnage yet. We just have Cletus Cassidy locked up in a cell. Eddie Brock has a one-on-one special interview that he goes in to do. And the last line we're given in the film is, when I get out of here, there will be Carnage. Now, you can say that's a real wink at a sequelitis. Let's go. Here's the next movie and all that, which, of course, won't see. I doubt that.
Well, I really don't.
I doubt it too. But hey, as far as appearances, it was awesome seeing Woody Harrelson here. B, did he fit Cassidy? Yes.
Absolutely.
It was crazy.
Yes.
I was not expecting Woody Harrelson to pull off Cletus. You put that, that looks like some generic $5.
It did.
They put on his head. And oh my God, if he didn't wear that like the professional he is. My God, dude's like, watch me play Cletus Cassidy with a freaking clown wig on.
I got this.
He did it.
I love it. The way he even has the just stylistically, man. Even the way he kind of has the bit of the drawl and like the accent, it's perfect. It's perfect. Like that's who I see as Cassidy. So.
It was crazy. If this movie does make money, and I'm not suspecting that it will, I don't think we'll see another one. Sony's, I think they may be like, look, all right, we're having our time with this. Spider-Man over at the MCU is bringing in the hundreds of millions of dollars just by us letting them use it.
Right.
And I have a feeling that's what they're going to be happy with doing eventually. But if we do get another one of these, if they do not go with Morbius, if they do not go with Silver Sable or Black Cat, okay, I want to see Woody Harrelson as Carnage more than I want to see Eddie or Tom Hardy as Venom.
For sure.
Let me just re-emphasize my idea for the Carnage movie. make it a serial killer / monster flick where the protagonists are the cops and Carnage is the bad guy. I think that would be awesome.
They did. They got me excited for that though. Or just don't do anything.
Or just don't.
This was bad.
Just leave it alone.
Just
leave it alone. So, all right, awesome. I believe that brings us to our squaring point here. That brings us to our end. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned here right on this channel for more of our movie reviews, our Let's Plays and game reviews, and also our weekly show and more. Until next time, you guys take it easy. Have a good one. Hey people, thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but it'd be great if you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksongmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, pick up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later.